It's a rare change. I just decided to go without the cap today. I mean, some mornings I wear it because it's cold. Other times I wear it because the hair falls in the face. I swear though, I'm going to be unfriending some people on Facebook over the next year because Bernie Sanders announcing he's running for president is bringing all the haters back out. It's amazing how it's just a fact. I don't know. I'm still tired. I'm barely woken up. I don't really know how to convey my emotions that well, but my emotions have been sufficiently stirred. And I knew this would be the first person I would see jumping on the fuck Bernie Sanders bandwagon. Just this woman that I met one time. I'm not gonna say who she is, what she does, but at my own peril, I have kept her as a Facebook friend, and I don't know if I'm gonna make it. This girl is off her rocker. She's one of those people that thinks, and obviously, you know, we've lived in a society where men have treated women as inferiors for practically most of existence. But she's one of these people that thinks the exact opposite. She thinks that in pretty much every facet, men are inferior to women. And that's just going too far the other way. So she's has some very mixed up ideals. And one of those things is that pretty much if a man runs for president, he's not to be trusted. And she is a psycho lunatic freak show supporter of Hillary Clinton, which it's astonishing that this person has the ignorance and the nerve to rip into Bernie Sanders and who he is, and then still stand there and talk about Hillary Clinton using terminology like great American leader, fantastic for women's rights, the most qualified candidate ever. I still don't know where Hillary supporters get that shit from. But anyway, I mean, this girl's crazy. First time I met her, she's irresponsible level crazy. First time I met her, she had a bunch of makeup caked on her face right here because she had her side of her face was swollen and she had a little bit of a black eye because she went to a club and just started fighting people, I guess. I don't know, or said something someone didn't want to hear and got punched, I don't know. And I see this girl every couple of weeks. She has a new story about how she went out partying with her friends and some fight broke out. And I'm just like, wow, you really got your shit together. You're really in a position to be criticizing people for what they do or what they believe. But of course, to no one's shock, and I really don't know how much longer I can tolerate having this person as a friend on Facebook if this is going to be what her feed is. And of course, the moment Bernie announces his candidacy, she's on there. She posted some meme where it was like, you know, the last thing we need is an old sniveling man baby as our president. And it's known and accepted that Bernie Sanders has a little bit of a crotchety attitude or appearance to him. That's just how he looks. Doesn't mean he's necessarily like that. He obviously cares a lot more about the state of the world than anybody else. And I love all these Democratic candidates have come out of the woodwork trying to run against Trump. There's already a whole bunch of them announced, and she didn't have one thing to say about him. Then Bernie Sanders announces his candidacy, and boom, she's up there on her fucking soapbox. And I'm like, really? You just have this blind allegiance to one of the most corrupt politicians in recent American history, both Hillary and Bill. But of course, she's not going to look into or accept her crooked background. All she looks at is the general resume. I guess she reads Hillary Clinton based on what her resume might look like. She was the first lady. She was a senator. She was our Secretary of State. That's what I meant to say. It's like, yeah, and she was pretty shitty at all those jobs. And I could sit and pen all day ripping into Hillary Clinton, but we're talking about Bernie right now. So this chick is so damn insane. Like, she just started listing off like why we shouldn't support Bernie. Surprisingly, I don't know if I saw any like it's only Bernie bros that support him, which is so disrespectful to the women that support Bernie. And women support Bernie in great numbers. I always, whether it's at one of these massive gatherings he's had, these rallies, or it's on Facebook groups, I've always seen more women there directly involved than guys. So it's very disrespectful. And while I think this country definitely needs to have a female president at some point, somebody who's not Hillary. I mean, I voted for a woman in our last election. But that doesn't just mean that any woman who has a shot is better than every man who's on the ticket. Hillary is not better than Bernie. She's just not. But this chick had the nerve to come up on here and start ripping into Bernie. And everything she said, I think, and this bitch supports Hillary Clinton. But there was just... She said that Bernie essentially did nothing to help Hillary after losing the Democratic primary to her. And I think that's just a lot of saltiness because she didn't win, so somehow that's Bernie's fault too. But yes, she said that he pretty much did like nothing to help and support her during the actual presidential election during Trump. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why do you think he didn't put up a bigger fight at the Democratic National Convention when you guys screwed him in the ass? Like you'd been doing the whole primary, but yeah. And then why didn't he could have still signed up and ran as an independent and taken a lot more votes. But no, he came up there literally the moment the Democratic primaries were over and the convention happened and the Democratic Party decided they wanted Hillary. He came out and said over and over, we need to band together, put our differences behind us, and vote for Hillary. I didn't do that, and it wasn't because I was pissed that Bernie lost. It was because I don't trust Hillary as far as I can throw her. So that's just insane. She said that he doesn't care about women's rights, which I think is hilarious considering the fact that he's not only attracted a lot of support from women, but he's attracted a lot of support from very intelligent, what is happening? From very intelligent, knowledgeable women. You know, women that know who's who in this whole game. I had correspondence with some of them during the 2016 election. And it's really hilarious because Hillary talks a big game when it comes to women's rights, but at the end of the day, man, woman, cat, dog, Hillary gives a shit about one person in this world, and that is herself. You know, ever since Trump got elected, Bernie has continued to fight and fight and fight, and he continues to try to get these bills into Congress, knowing these scumbags we have in corporate political power are going to try to shut him down best they can every time. He still fights and is still trying to do it till his last breath. He is going to keep fighting, which is something I can't say about pretty much any presidential candidate that's run in the last who knows how many elections. And meanwhile, what has Hillary Clinton done? Stood on the sidelines, jerked us around. Oh, she made sure to write a book, though, to explain why her presidential loss in 2016 was apparently everybody else's fault but hers. So, I guess there's that. She was productive in that vein. But, I mean, do you get what I'm saying? I'm not going to be able to handle this nonsensical rhetoric. And it may not just end with me just like being like, nope, can't deal with it, you're unfriended. It may turn into like, I'm gonna rip this person's completely broken up logic apart and then unfriend them or wait for them to block me or whatever. But it's already started. Bernie announced his campaign like, what, 26 hours ago? And I'm already getting kind of fed up with people. You better believe I won't be flooding my channel with, or my YouTube channel, yeah, because that's going to be a thing now. But also my Facebook. Going to be posting Bernie stuff and waiting for the idiots to swarm in. Whew. It's going to be a rough and tumble next several months. And if you don't like Bernie, that's fine. That's your prerogative. It's my prerogative. I shouldn't be promoting that song, primarily because of its singer. But, you know, there's a big difference between just not liking Bernie. You don't like Bernie, it's one thing. But it's another thing to just have such blind loyalty to someone who is so clearly, obviously the enemy, you know, beyond Trump. But I'm talking Hillary here. And then to have so much disdain for the other side, to be so blinded against the realities of the situation that you'd be that much of an ardent defender of someone like Hillary fucking Clinton. I get sick just looking at her. And of course, you know, with how much I follow the Democratic primaries, as much as I was trying to follow Bernie, I had to see her just dishonest, disingenuous face every day. Just infuriating. And here's another thing. This is the one that really got my goat from this woman on Facebook who is beyond being a serious Hillary supporter, is also out of her freaking mind. One of the points she made was, and this is how, I believe this is how she phrased it, was Bernie's campaign. It was the campaign. It was this conglomerate thing. They broke into, you know, Democratic headquarters and accessed information they weren't supposed to have. It's described like it was freaking the Watergate burglary 2.0. And she's like, and if you don't believe me, I have sources. I have a source. I'm like, first of all, anybody who followed the campaign fucking remembers that. It's not like you uncovered something deep hidden under the earth. But I also find it hilarious. Like, here's a link. I'm like, oh, wow, really? You found a media source that was critical of Bernie? Wow, good on you. Another great discovery that nobody else in the world apparently had any knowledge of. With how fucking disrespectful and biased the media was against Bernie. There were actually analysis done and investigations into the media because of how freaking anti-Bernie they presented themselves. So, oh, you have an article from the media about something bad about Bernie? Wow, big shocker. Big applause for you. But, you know, it just goes to show how much people will just fall in line. If it's what they want to believe, or if it's what the people that they want to trust are telling them to believe, they'll just fall into fucking line. And did this happen? Yes, this absolutely happened. There was a guy who worked in Bernie's, sorry, a lot of noise. There's a guy that worked in Bernie's campaign that was caught apparently accessing information he wasn't supposed to be accessing. And, you know, it blew up, and the Democratic Party was like, oh, well, oh, look what you did. Oh, evil Bernie Sanders. Everybody, you know, everybody thinks you're the hero, but you're the villain. And what people, especially Democrats, didn't want to pay attention to was this particular guy that got busted accessing information that tarnished Bernie a bit and also drastically affected his campaign in the middle of a primary race, because there was no corruption in the 2016 Democratic primary. This guy was actually recommended to Bernie's campaign by the Democratic Party. Members of the Democratic Party actually told him to bring this guy on. And then shortly after he arrives, he gets busted doing shit. But do we get that story? Do we get the, oh, this guy that the Democratic Party put their reputation on gets in trouble for doing something he shouldn't have been doing? No, it's someone in Bernie's camp gets busted for doing something they shouldn't have been doing. So all of a sudden, it's all Bernie's fault. Isn't that convenient? The Democratic Party recommends this guy for Bernie's camp, Right after he joins, he does something wrong that he probably had to know was wrong. And then it creates a bunch of negative press for Bernie and gives the Democratic Party the opportunity to say, hey, you can't access critical information towards your campaign anymore because you're crooked. And people say the Democratic Party is the party of the people when they do shit like that. But their supporters, like this dumb bitch, they defend it. Again, people, if you don't like Bernie, that's fine. If you want to post reasons why you don't like him, even if you're a little bit misguided, that's one thing. But when you're coming out and you're attacking someone and you're attacking a support base under, I guess, the guise of being righteous, like you're going to just be this great mouthpiece of wisdom for people who support Bernie to show him that he's really just a scumbag. Especially from somebody who, while Bernie was fighting the good fight, Hillary was supporting a Republican candidate for president who was, by no misunderstanding, racist. Yeah, you can say what you want. You can say, oh, well, Hillary was young then. No, she was born in a, I want to say, like middle class family. Still pretty good setup. And she got to go to nice schools. She got to be First Lady of Arkansas. She got to be the First Lady of the nation. This woman has no concept of what struggle and strife is. Why am I ever going to trust her any more than Trump in this regard, who's also grown up and lived his whole life spoiled and rich? And the fact of the matter is that people have been rich their whole lives, whether they want to believe it or not. I know, because God forbid rich people get called on anything, because people think because they're rich that they're just godlike. And how dare you criticize them on anything. But if you are rich your whole life, you have no concept of what it's like being poor. Now, I, on the other hand, have been poor my whole life. And it's astonishing to hear. Like, I remember my stupid dickhead stepdad. I don't even like calling him my stepdad, but legally that's what he is. I remember he came from a very affluent family. He got a chunk of change. And one of the things he wanted to spend it on was he wanted to buy us uniforms at the church. We had this Knights, kind of a Knights of Columbus type thing going. And he wanted to blow a whole shitload of money buying us uniforms. And you know something else? The shirts he bought were Donald Trump brand shirts. And this was back in, like, this is probably, I don't know, 2010, 2011, 2012. And I freaking didn't like Trump then either. Little did I realize. So I'm glad I let that shirt generally just rot away on a hanger like it should have done. But he bought us like the shirt and pants for these uniforms that we didn't need, but it was so important for him, for us to look good, because when you grow up rich, it's all about how you look. Which I understand that vein if you're going in for like a job interview or some shit, but he then was like, oh, but I think people should have to buy their own shoes. But then he specifically said, you have to buy these shoes. And they were Florsheim, which are, if you're lucky, you can find a pair of Florsheim shoes for like 70, 80 bucks. And here I am, this is many years ago, I'm making a little bit above minimum wage. I'm essentially working part-time because I'm in college. So I'm working like 15, 20 hours a week, making probably, I don't know, $9 an hour. And he just couldn't understand why I wasn't able to afford to just drop 70, 80, 90 bucks on a pair of fucking shoes for an outfit that I didn't even care about us getting. That's that. And he wasn't even that rich, but it was that aspect that, like, he just didn't understand why a poor person can't afford all this shit. And then you wonder why the government keeps making it harder and harder for poor people to survive. I mean, other than just their psychosis and their greed, they don't have any concept unless they came from a normal background. And even then, they might lose that somewhere along the way. But they have no concept of the struggles of being poor. They have no idea how little money most of us really have. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really have a thing called disposable income right now. I don't really have that. And those are and that's the thing is, Bernie grew up living a normal life, and you know, him and his wife make pretty good money. But for a guy who's been a senator since the frickin' 60s, the guy makes, what was it when he released his tax returns in 2016 and he'd made like around $200,000, which that's not chump change, but this guy's also a high-ranking senator and has been for a long time, and he's putting his time and energy in. You know, Hillary, on the other hand, charges $250,000 just to do a speech, and it's like, you're not even a good speech giver, Hillary, and yet she charges more than Bernie made in 1 year to do one stupid ass speech. So they'll never understand. Bernie gets it because he actually came from that background, so he actually cares about helping students with their loan debt, helping poor people who can't afford health care, and all these things that affect poor people more than rich people. And he's been constantly fighting for that. And yet there's people, even on the Democrat side, the Democrats just can't accept this guy. And they attack this guy for doing more for their children than they ever will. Of course, Hillary Clinton, she doesn't have to worry about her daughter because she's rich as shit too. But yeah, just, it's going to be a very frustrating state of affairs. And you know, I have all this video, all these images, a lot of investigative work that I did myself that I actually didn't see people elsewhere doing. And my plan for a long time is to do a very big, very in-depth kind of YouTube documentary on the Democratic primaries of 2016 and how corrupt they were. And I was going to address stuff like that guy that got picked up by Bernie's camp and then got busted for doing something he wasn't doing. I mean, can you say a plant? Jesus. I'm thinking I'm probably going to do it as a little bit of a reminder. I'm going to do potentially, if I have the time. Now, mind you, the primaries are still almost a year away. But I'm thinking about doing a series of short videos, these little 5 to 10 minute videos addressing all these aspects of the 2016 Democratic primaries and all the shit Bernie had to face. And maybe putting out there a little bit of an explanation of why, when all was said and done, all these people disassociated from the Democratic Party and said, we will not support you, we will not support Hillary. We are telling you this now, months before the presidential election comes along. You know, utterly disrespected, treated like you don't count. We're the Democratic Party, we know what's best for you. And the thing is, a lot of these people were registered Democrats. They didn't just register as Democrats to vote for Bernie. These people were genuine Democrats who were spit on by their party because they didn't want what these people wanted. Now, did a lot of people want Hillary? Sure, but you know what? When you look at how close that Democratic primary was, and then you think about the fact that pretty much in every state, Hillary blew Bernie away with early voting because Hillary was a lot more known. You know, going into even a month or two before the Democratic primary, there was nobody that was going to compete with Hillary. So she gained a really big advantage with early voting because people didn't really know Bernie that well, but everybody knows Bernie now. And I pray to God Hillary doesn't run again. Hillary, stay home. Nobody wants you for president. Even when you win the popular vote, you still lose. I shouldn't be making a joke like that because I hate the Electoral College as much as the next person. But it's like, whoa! I almost witnessed an accident. But yeah, it's going to be really rough because I can just see the with what the Democratic Party did to Bernie in 2016, now that he's known, it's going to be a lot harder to screw him over. I get queasy just thinking about some of the things that might happen, but because seriously, I don't trust the Democratic Party to give Bernie remotely a fair shake. Not at all. And I get it. He's regarded himself as an independent, but hey, guess what? Based on his belief structure, he's more of a Democrat than most Democratic politicians are. Politicians who describe themselves as Democrats. He's more of a Democrat than Hillary fucking Clinton is, I'll tell you that much. And I'm sorry, I obviously get juiced up by this. I'm talking about, the state of our country and the state of our future, and people acting like complete and total idiots. And that's going to bring a few F-bombs and such out of me from time to time, because it's very frustrating. So, we'll see. Bernie's not going to be an unknown this time around. And he's actually running against a lot of people. Seems like a lot of people who have put their hat in the race haven't run for president before, so a lot of them are kind of in a similar position that Bernie was back in 2016, but none of these people are gonna create the stir that Bernie did, because none of them are genuine enough. Bernie Sanders got that unexpected coalition to surround him and to support him because he's one of the last few decent, honest politicians. You know, has he lied once or twice in his career? I'm sure he has. Every great, good person in the world has lied a few times. So don't hold that against him like he's as remotely bad as the rest of this bunch. And I'm not talking about the people that are running for Democratic, on the Democratic ticket, or I'm just talking about politicians in general. So, I'm excited, but it's going to be rough. Hello, mutt. Hey. Hello. Hello. Yeah, she's going to go right after the feet. You're going to vote for Bernie? He support dog rights. Bernie, a dog rights supporter. I've lost my mind. And why do I go on? I can't. I'm gonna have to stop going on to Facebook now at this point. First of all, you've got Republicans posting non-critical criticisms, which are essentially dumb memes. Because after all, memes are well-established fact. That dumb, crazy chick that I talked about on my yesterday's blog, who always posts about her love of Trump, and actually a guy went on to her post and said that we should take all socialists to the gallows and purge them one by one. That's this person and her friends. I noticed suddenly she posted something on Facebook that said, "Why don't we have term limits for Congress? This needs to change." Interesting, considering the fact that somebody who was a long-term congressperson, Bernie Sanders, suddenly announced his run for president. Of course, this is chick is Republican as a frickin' hole in the wall. But it's just, you know, and then, you know, there's the people coming out talking about how, oh great, the Bernie cult's gonna come out again. I've been seeing that on Facebook, this Bernie cult. I'm sorry that people support him and are inspired by a man who actually gives a fuck. I apologize. That must make me really dumb, stupid, and naive. I don't even know why I bothered. I mean, we're supposed to be maintaining the same system we've always had, which is elect people who are completely unqualified for the presidency. And, you know, when things get rough and the next shitty election comes along, we just elect whoever the fuck we're told to elect because, God forbid, we actually try to incite change of some kind. And then people incite change. Like our newest, youngest member elected in the 2018 election, the Democratic, or I think she ran as a Democrat, yeah. Talking about Alexandria going out there and using that energy and getting pissed and getting all these people that are against her. You know, just, you know, they can't post any actual criticisms of her. They just have to post all this dumb, ha ha ha, you're young. These stupid fucking memes. I'm not that much older than she is, and I am almost personally insulted by these stupid memes people are posting that are implying that because she's one of the youngest, if not the youngest, Democrats, or people. I'm sorry, I'm so frustrated that I can't finish a sentence. I can't go on Facebook for 2 minutes without just getting stressed, and now I can't even finish a sentence because I'm so annoyed at the ignorance and the disrespect and the just total, utter misguided nonsense. You know, if you can't provide a legitimate argument against somebody, just go online and spout the same shit that somebody else did, or post a stupid fucking meme that has no basis towards anything, no basis in fact, does not help your argument whatsoever. But I guess if you don't have an argument, I mean, you're gonna have to drop pretty low to find something to defend yourself. But yeah, I can't stand these fucking people. Yeah. Bernie announced his run less than 48 hours ago, and just the worms are crawling out of the woodwork. And I can't. I'm so frustrated. He can't just announce his run without these scumbags coming left and right. Most of them don't know anything about Bernie. They just want to attack him because it's convenient. And it's like, really? You're going to call the people that support Bernie because Bernie is one of the few people... Like, here I am, drowning in student debt, like most people my age, and Bernie's the only person that seems to give a shit about that. Hillary sure as shit doesn't. Trump sure as shit doesn't. You know? All these things that young people are having to grow up carrying on their back. The reasons why people like me are never going to own a home someday, never going to own a new car, never going to have this, never going to have that, without somebody like Bernie actually getting some authority and hopefully pushing new legislation. You know, and but nobody seems to be able to understand that that's why people like me, the young people, might be supporting him, is because he actually gives a shit about keeping people like me and people that are younger than me from being just fucked for literally the rest of our existence. Alright? You know, I literally have to not think about my future sometimes because of how bleak it seems. You know, I'm never going to pay off my student debt. I'm probably never going to own a home. I'm probably never going to make enough money to have even a, you know, comfortable financial existence, much less a very frugal, or the opposite of frugal one. You know, that's why people like Bernie, we're not just a bunch of brainwashed morons, because he's the only one that actually has said and actually tried to help us. The rest of these fuckers out there, they just say stuff and then don't do anything. People have a lot of nerve calling people who support Bernie because we actually have some hope with someone like him in the White House. They have a lot of nerve criticizing the young people who can't move away from home when they're 18 because they can't afford to, who can't afford to stay in college because they can't afford to. You know, now getting a bachelor's degree isn't enough. Now that we know we can screw people sideways through student loans, now suddenly it used to just be you need some college. Then it turned into you need to get your degree. You need to get a bachelor's degree. Well, now suddenly it's you need to get that master's. You need to get that doctorate. Any way we can screw a little more money out of you and slam you harder and harder into debt. You know? And people, I mean, and I'm an older millennial, but people my age and younger, we're freaking drowning. Our existence, we are drowning in this freaking country. And all the politicians that they throw in front of us as our options to run for president, none of them give a shit. They all say they do, but talk means nothing. Bernie actually has a track record of trying to help. He actually gives a shit. So people have a lot of nerve criticizing and belittling these struggles. And some of these people are freaking millennials. People getting screwed by the system, and they're actively attacking the one person who actually gives a shit about them. It's tragic. It's literally tragic. Bernie Sanders is not a godsend. If he said, follow me into the desert, we're going to create a new civilization, I'm not just going to suddenly pack up my shit, grab a white robe, and just follow him out into the middle of nowhere. Alright? I appreciate him. He has a track record of constantly fighting for us. I actually trust him to try to do what's right, which I have never come close to doing for pretty much anybody. Obama's probably the closest I've come, and there's a lot of shit about him I don't like either. You know, I don't think Bernie Sanders is a godsend. I don't think all of my problems are going to go away if he gets elected president. But I damn sure feel a lot more positive about the upcoming future with Bernie in the White House than I do, obviously, Trump getting reelected, than I do with Hillary. Even with someone like Joe Biden, who I don't hate Joe Biden, but I don't really love him that much. I get the guy has, you know, he's been in the game for a long time. I get it. He's funny. You know, but big fucking deal. You know? So it's just, it's very stressful that people minimize the fact that people love this guy because he's actually thinking about us and not just his rich cohorts. You know, that's not a cult. But then people will show blind allegiance to Donald Trump, who's a fucking idiot and doesn't care about anybody, much less the people that supported him and voted for him. Do you think he gives a crap about his fucking supporters? Do you think Hillary Clinton gives a shit about her supporters? No. These are just rich scumbags that are going to do what they can to stay rich, and one of the ways that they stay rich and stay in power is they appease all the other rich people that are helping them out. And then you've got Bernie Sanders, who made barely over $200,000 on those 2016 tax returns. And again, Hillary Clinton charging $250K to do some dumb speech for someone. All right? And then you have people that literally will fight and go to their freaking graves for those people. But then you have to talk about Bernie Sanders and how messed up his followers are. Some of the most intellectual, warm-hearted people I've had the pleasure of being introduced to have been people that have been Bernie Sanders supporters. And none of them have been crazy. None of them have been out of their minds. Obviously, there are going to be support. Every single person who runs has a campaign that develops a good following, that has a lot of followers, whether it's Bernie, Hillary, Trump, anybody. There's always going to be a sect of people that are part of that support base that are out of their minds, are going to lose their mind the moment something doesn't go right. But then the problem is that people who support a certain candidate, they don't acknowledge it when it happens to them. I acknowledge that it happens with some Bernie supporters. Some Bernie supporters are out of their freaking mind. I've encountered them too. But, you know, the same thing happens with Hillary. You know, I'm experiencing it personally on my Facebook. Same thing happens with Trump. Everybody has that sect of crazy people. But of course, you know, the Democrats, you know, the people, the establishment Democrats, obviously don't want Bernie to run. You know, they play this game of, oh, it's all the crazy Bernie supporters, they're all insane, they all go nuts on you if they don't win. We saw the way they behaved at the Nevada Democratic convention thing, and they were all yelling and hooting and hollering. Yeah, you know why? Because the Democratic Party pulled a bunch of crooked shit and then stepped down on the stage and gave those Democrat people the finger who wanted to support. It wasn't just Bernie. It was Bernie and Hillary people were pissed at the way that thing ended. But all we heard about was, oh, the Bernie people just went crazy, like wild frothing, you know, diseased dogs walking the streets. You know, and it's sad. The fucked up, completely unqualified woman that led that thing, and she was the one that came out and was like, "This thing is out," and then stormed off like a little child. She got death threats after that, and that is never okay. But no matter, again, everybody was like, oh, we're finally seeing the true colors of Bernie Sanders supporters because they could find 2 or 3 tweets of somebody that said, oh, you should go kill yourself, oh, go Bernie. And it's like, that is another thing. There's always going to be that sect of people, all right?